When you connected with us at Architect Knowhow, this means providing information that would be of value to you whilst you were at university as a student, and if you are in architectural practice as a qualified architect. It will also provide you with a heads up in your transition from university architecture to architecture in practice. It's like having advance notice of what's coming your way when you get qualified and start in practice. Architect Knowhow will deal with the enjoyable aspects of being an architect, and there are quite a few of those, as well as the challenges you will face. And it will also help you to what to watch out for, really. In this video then, I will take you through some typical scenarios associated with engaging with your client on a project. That is, the startup activities and what you should be thinking about. Getting things in place, in other words. I will also be covering aspects associated with your architect's appointment and why it is very important to have some formal arrangement in place with your client. An awful lot of young practitioners I see don't have that in place, and they can find themselves in a measure of difficulty. So we will take a look at the overall project and what you might expect. We will dig into what the architect's appointment is and why getting this in place is vital for an architect. And then I will outline some aspects surrounding the project brief that really you should be aware of. So moving on then with this video, because I want to get into the very essence of starting an architectural project. In other words, how to start, how to know where to begin. Therefore, I want to give you a general overview of project situations and where you as an architect might come into the mix. These slides really are a gentle introduction about functioning as an architect in practice. I will also be taking you through the very essence of starting a project with your client and getting yourselves organized. Now that's the most important thing, is knowing how to get yourself organized. So how does this project come about? I mean, how's a project born? Well, let us start then by me showing you the process at the very beginning of a project coming into existence. In other words, the project might be just a notion, a dream even, in the head of a potential client. Some client out there that's looking at a parcel of land that you don't even know about yet. For you, being the potential architect for this particular project that is being incubated in that client's head, this is always a potential opportunity. So there are always being client sites being looked at by clients, and it's maybe you're recommended and then you're put in front of them as a potential architect. So just to provide some context to the project then, let's assume the project to be a simple residential project, like a new house or an extension to a property. Alternatively, we could assume as well it might be more substantial in size and indeed in complexity as well. Let's say, for instance, a small office development maybe, or a factory premises. It could be even a leisure centre or even a school building. And we've done quite a lot of school buildings and leisure centres. It doesn't matter really what type of project it might be, as the process will remain the same when it comes to the initial engagement with your client and identifying what the project will consist of. Now, I will say to you that whilst I have found every project will be different in different ways for different reasons, this process of getting to grips with the project and getting yourself organized will always remain the same. For now though, nothing exists. Let's assume that for you. Our potential client out there is merely thinking about a possible development for a particular parcel of land, and you or your firm, let's assume, are known to the client now. Clearly, that is always a good place to be. I have found it to at least be in the mix, but it is not a bankable project for you yet, not at this stage. Now, you'll probably hear me mention about bankable project, bankable document, and I say that for very good reason, actually, because a bankable document means it's something you can count on. So now I'm just going to have a look at what a new project opportunity might mean for you. So depending on the nature of the development being considered, that really will dictate where and when you, the architect, will become involved. And there are a number of possible situations. The first would be where you, say, are invited to engage with your client from the point zero. That means he's done nothing on the site, he hasn't given it no considerations, he's got a parcel of land, could be a she of course, or it could be a company, they, etc. That is, your client is thinking about a possible development for a parcel of land with or without an existing building. So your client owns this parcel of land, or your client is considering purchasing a parcel of land, and your architectural advice and expertise is required. Voila! So your client will be better understand then what might be possible from you as his architectural advisor. Ooh, no pressure then. So in my experience of such situations, the client's primary focus is usually on achieving that elusive planning permission. 9 times out of 10 it is, I have found that. This will enable your client to proceed, of course, to the next phase, which will either be to sell the development site with a planning permission, that's A, or B perhaps, build out the project himself or herself for their own specific use and then sell it on as a completed development. So you probably have that scenario. The other scenario, of course, is if it's a simple domestic property, they know what they want to live in it, they want to build it out and live in it, fine. So in the case of a domestic property owner or a business owner seeking to expand their properties for their own specific use, they tend to build out the project. So it would be reasonable to assume your commission will be for the full duration of the project, assuming, of course, all goes well and as intended. Now, I have also found, as a general rule, speculators seek to achieve a planning permission as a means to add value only, and then armed with that valuable bankable document planning permission, will sell the whole development on as a completed development. So somebody else will take it on and build it out. That is the nature of their business really, whereas developers tend to build out the project themselves. Now it's worth highlighting here that a planning permission here is the bankable document. That's where the added value is, as I referred to earlier. Okay, so as a general rule, the developer client usually intends to build out the project. That is what they are good at. That is where they make their profit. That's where their expertise is. And they are good also at making profit. I can give you a first-hand guarantee on that. The developer clients, however, will usually acquire the land with an existing planning permission, or they might be taking advantage of an option to purchase the land once the planning permission is achieved. There are occasions too where a developer will buy a parcel of land with an existing planning permission and sees an opportunity perhaps to enhance that existing planning permission with a fresh application and thereby increase the added value. So this may be where you come in. Now I'm just going to take a moment here just to focus on a very important issue that I know I'm going to be covering in other videos and maybe later in these videos as well. But I want to highlight this aspect of planning conditions. Now, you remember earlier in this, just a few moments ago, I referred to a client maybe buying a planning permission. Sorry, not buying buying a site with a planning permission. And he's engaged you to have a look at the viability of this. What he's thinking of buying, and he says, William, would you have a look at this? I just want to make sure that the numbers are going to stack up. So the first thing I always dive into is not the planning permission, that's fine, it's the conditions, the planning conditions. They are lethal, they are dynamite for an architect. If you don't recognize that there are planning permissions, even look at the document. I know clients have gone ahead with other people and they bought a site and they never refer to the planning conditions, and there could be tons of problems, cost implications, time implications, and you need to be wise and alert at least to these planning conditions exist. So just bear that in mind. We'll come on to this particular topic later on. I know I've referred it to elsewhere, and I'll come on to that also. So let's just push on then with the way I had this video planned out in my head. That is, there are occasions also where the developer client finds themselves in a particular financial situation where selling on the development project with a planning permission is an attractive option. Financially, that is. So selling on then might be due to a shortfall in funds suddenly, and that happens, or the funds are needed to get involved in a larger development project where there's even more profits perhaps. But as an architect involved somewhere within the mix of all of this, you are not necessarily involved in the decision-making process, but you do naturally have a vested interest. That is why you're in business as a practicing architect. So in other words, you really have some skin in the game, and depending where you're involved, where you're at with the project. So keeping a close eye on the maneuverings, therefore, becomes a necessary habit eventually, I have found anyway, and you get good at it. So with numerous possible situations that might exist for you with your client, it's always useful to have a basic understanding of your client's game plan, what the thinking is or might be, and where you fit in to the process. Again, that word, process. Keeping your antenna up to scan the airways and your wing mirrors out at all times to see what might be coming up behind is always a worthwhile endeavor. I learned that from a partner in a practice that when I was a young junior partner in a practice many years ago. I had some great mentors actually, so I'm sort of drawn on that when during my years in practice as well. So getting back to the planning aspect though, the first is to achieve is that planning permission, because really without a planning permission your project stops for your client. Equally, of course, for you as the architect, that might be the end of the project for you also.